Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Episode 3, the Voxsana podcast. We're getting super professional here. I'm just going to fix my camera. Welcome and thank you. If you're here, say hi in the chats. I love it. I love saying hi to everybody. And thank you for spending your Friday night with us. Well, Friday at 5 if you're in the West Coast. So supper time, which is cool. Yeah, but I've got a really fun show for you tonight. Oh my goodness, it's going to be really fun. Longtime friend of mine, Airdrie Poole. She's a speech therapist. I'm going to read you her official bio and then I'm going to bring her on. We're just going to talk. Here we go. Airdrie Poole is a speech therapist, lifelong learner, and mama of 2. Hailing from the Canadian Prairies, she has had the pleasure of working in all sectors of her field, including the health sciences, public schools, and now in her own private practice, Allegra Speech Language Therapy. And there, she works with kids ages birth through elementary school. Very important stuff. She's making the world a more vocal place, and she is one of my favorite people and the brightest lights that I know. So, welcome, Airdrie. We're going in hot.
Hello.
Hello. Hello, beautiful. How are
It's
you?
nice to see your face. I'm good.
Ah. Well, thank you. I put makeup on and I showered. So, this is a big day for mom.
Yeah, fresh and ready to go.
I know mom life is pretty cool, but hey, we made it, both of us. And you're a mama,
Yes, I am. I am.
2
I have
kiddos.
2 cool humans at my house
Love
who
that.
are both presently on a ball field at this moment.
Oh, and you're missing it. Oh, I'm sorry,
I
mama.
am. But you know what? I've caught a lot of the other ones.
Well, there you go. Seen it before. Love you, kids. Bye bye. See you next time.
Yeah,
Well, I get it.
exactly.
Well, I super appreciate your time and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. No pressure, but I
Me
think it's a
too.
very important one. You and I have had a few discussions recently about the work that we do, and there's a lot of crossover. And that's, I mean, obviously, speech therapist, um, voice coach. We both have the word speechy, voicey in there. That makes sense.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but let's start because a lot of people don't fully understand what you might do. And the first myth I want to bust through is the name. Speech therapist, speech language pathologist. Same, different,
Yes. Totally okay
same.
to use either of those. We are the same person. The reason we go by speech language pathologist a lot of the time is we get to work on both pronunciation and the words piece. So sometimes we're working on sounds, sometimes we're building words and vocabulary. So that's why we throw both speech and language in there. But
Oh,
same deal. I
oh,
answer to
I love
either.
that. I love
Yeah,
that. I love that.
it's good
And
variety.
it is good variety, and that's really cool to know because I thought they were interchangeable, but I wasn't too sure, and you never want to offend anybody, so thank you for clearing that up.
I am not offended.
You
I
know?
am not.
There you go. Awesome. Well, you know what? My very first place I want to start with you, because I always find it so amazing when people go down an avenue of voice, is what made you choose voice and this part of voice particularly? And that might be a big long story, and go for it because the floor is yours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a great question. I found myself in this really cool field with a lot of different options based on a wicked case of FOMO. Essentially, I recall vividly standing at the door of my grade 2 classroom, watching my friends walk off to the school speech room and
Mhm.
thinking, where are the tryouts? I want in. I know you're doing something fun there. I want in. I had a working hour. I couldn't get the backstage pass, but I really wanted to be there. And now, as the therapist that I've busted into this room as, um, I was absolutely right. A whole lot of fun things happening here, and I'm glad. I'm glad that one way or another, I found myself in here because, man, I get to hang out with some cool kids.
Oh, that's so awesome. And I bet you have some really cool toys.
I
Like,
do.
yeah. So, what does your day to day look like? Like, what might it look like in a session with one of your kiddos? Are we just
Mm,
hanging out? Are we working on cards? Like, what does it look like for folks? 'Cause a
mm.
lot of us don't have any clue what it might look
Yeah.
like. So,
Great question.
Yeah.
I am a big fan of child-led play. I'm a big fan
Yeah.
of putting a few options out there. They let me know what looks cool to them, and then I
Mm.
stick the goals in with whatever they're really interested in doing because the research tells us that we're going to get more bang for our buck. Kids are going to get more learning done when they're super engaged and really enjoying what they're doing. So, in my next life, I would like to be a toy tester, possibly an elf because I've got
Nice.
opinions. I've got opinions about toys.
Yeah, you do.
My my entire day is with toys and cool humans.
Oh, like, isn't that just the best? I
It is.
I have toys and cool humans too, and my job includes, well, I guess, yeah, obviously the cool humans are at my job too, but the toys, I'm like, do we have toys? But sure, we're singing and we're playing and um and interestingly, adults are not much different than your kiddos because when they're engaged and enjoying themselves, we get way faster results, but we also have way more fun. Right.
Right.
And that's one of the things that made me branch out into my own way of teaching voice and not working in a music school anymore, is that I wanted to bring some of my own philosophy and the play that I was experiencing in my own practice. Not that I
Hmm.
couldn't in a school, but I just felt a little bit more free to do my own thing in my own business. And I
Yeah.
know you can relate to that too, because you went from the public sector and now you're in a
Yeah.
private business. So I want you to talk to me a little bit
Yes.
about what made you take this big, awesome leap into your own practice and how has it been going?
It's been a
Big
lot of
question.
fun. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, historically, speech therapists or speech language pathologists work in schools and hospitals or
Mhm.
private practice. And I've had the opportunity to work in the hospital setting and loved my time there.
Mhm.
And I've had the opportunity to work in the school division that raised me. And I wanted to
That's so good.
try the next thing.
Yeah.
And I really, really enjoyed being able to do it this way.
Mhm.
And it's been a lot of fun.
Oh, it's totally cool. Um, and you have your own really, well, I don't know if it's your own, but I'm going to say it's your own philosophies on your approach to work that I just loved. And when we talked the other day, I was just like, oh my, I was madly scribbling these down because I was like, damn, I want to steal these for me. These are great.
Good.
So
I love it.
yeah, well, one of the things you always say to me is kids are amazing. And I think let's explore that in just a second. But the not speaking is not the same as not as having nothing to say, pardon me. That
Yes.
that really, really resonated for me, and so I wonder if you can just talk a little bit about that
Hmm.
phrase, "Kids are amazing," and also, I wonder if I should throw one more at you. I'm going to. Your series on how to make kids talk/don't slash don't is my
Yeah.
favorite favorite
Yeah.
thing on the planet. So I know that's a
Good.
big bundle of questions, but tell us about your philosophy and just like,
Okay.
yeah, what that looks like for you. Yeah.
Well, I often say my best ideas are stolen. I've had the benefit of
Yeah.
listening to some brilliant people around me
Yeah.
who I've worked with. So I don't know that I can claim any of them as 100% my own, but I absolutely um, think one of the neatest things about when parents come to me and are feeling really concerned because they're not hearing their kids doing
Mm.
as much talking as they expected they would be doing.
Yeah.
I think one of the neatest things is realizing, huh, getting that piece started for kids is as complex and as simple as how do you make them talk? Don't. I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
And this whole idea
Yeah.
of what we're doing is putting invitations out there.
Mhm.
And one of the most empowering things we can see as parents is to look at what our kids are doing and see, okay, that wasn't a word, but that was communication. And that was communication. You pointed at that. You looked back at me. You reached
Mhm.
for this. That was
Mhm.
all communication. A laugh was communication. A sound, a grunt, all of that counts. So we may not be hearing words yet, but how we get to the place of the words is meeting kids where they're at,
Yeah.
meeting them, what they're doing. We look for what they're doing right this second. And that's exactly where we start building the next thing. And the other thing that I think you bring up that's really neat is yes, you and I both talk about voice, but in the realm of that not saying any, not talking is not the same as having nothing to say.
Yeah.
Another really neat opportunity that I have in this job is, because we recognize all forms of communication, we do a lot of using visuals and picture symbols, because
Yeah.
that is every bit a voice for kids as something that may come out of your mouth.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I just love that. It's it's the 360 of speech for you guys and what you're doing, which is so essential because um I mentioned earlier that a lot of the messages I deal with my clients were put there as tiny kiddos. And some of them by well meaning parents that were just really concerned with,
Hmm.
oh, my kid might be behind. And one of
Hmm.
the things I wondered from you is, are there any tips for parents to A, know maybe when to bring their kiddos, but also B, how to support them so that we don't turn it into a negative thing? Because we love our kiddos so much,
Hmm.
we might push this a little too far in one direction rather than just being the supportive guide, if you will. So
Hmm.
what would you say to
Hmm.
something like that?
So I think you're absolutely right that parents are looking at what their kids are doing and they're wondering, how can I help? How can I make this easier? And when you're thinking about that, sometimes it feels scary. It feels big
Mhm.
and it feels scary, wondering, oh, how big a thing am I looking at here? Is this the kind of thing that I can help with? How many other people do I have to call in on this? I think the first thing I would say about that is deep breath. I
Mm.
bet, I
Yeah.
bet you can list immediately 5 things that your kid's amazing at. I bet you can list immediately off the top of your head with very little concentration or racking your brain. Huh, here are 5 things my kid's really good at.
Mhm.
Deep breath. Your child is safe, your child is loved, and there are at least a minimum of 5 things your kid's really good at.
Mm.
The other thing I would say is, when we get really good at noticing those pre communication things, those building blocks to language, that's another thing that can bring our panic down and make us feel like, wait, it's not words, but it is communication. And that's where
Yeah.
words start.
Yeah.
So that is a big thing that I get to do in my job is, hey, here's what your kid's doing really well. And A, those aren't things we need to feel worried about, the things that are going really well. And your kid just showed us exactly what our next step is. So that is
Right.
something that I like talking to parents about.
Mhm.
And as far as when to be concerned, when to give us a call, there are always going to be ages that we
Yeah.
anticipate a certain number of words will come, or there will always be ages that we anticipate that sounds will
Mhm.
show up. And
Mhm.
um, I do my best to share those with parents, but I think the best answer to when to get a hold of a speech pathologist is the second you have a question. If
Mm.
you have a question, you're right. If
Yeah.
you have a question, you're absolutely right to ask it. And part of our job is telling you how we can help. And the other part is telling you, oh, hey, you know what? That's not a thing you need to worry about right now. We're looking good.
Yeah. Yeah, the worry piece, right? We get so much information as parents about what where a kid should be at or where we should be at. It's just like it's everywhere and bless our hearts, we're doing the best we can, but shame is coming from all directions and shoulds are coming from all
Yes.
directions. And so a lot of these messages that these kiddos grow up with, um, I like to stress that it wasn't malicious. Our parents weren't
No,
trying to make us feel bad about our voices. They were
no.
actually trying to give us our best chance. And so I really love that, you redirect the parents into thinking, remember, your kiddo is amazing. It's cool. And now let's breathe. And now let's actually get curious and investigate and see what we need to do. And your
Yeah.
kid is going to actually direct this learning. That is rad.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
will tell you that that is how I do my lessons. That is
Neat.
exactly how I will come in with a plan, of course. We all
Yeah.
do because, well, especially me because I'm type A. Come in with a plan,
Yes.
fully prepared to scrap it,
Yeah.
fully prepared to scrap it. Because if we need to go in a new direction, everybody is their best guru, their own best guru, and they'll show you where they need to go that day. And if you're intuitive enough and you're just present enough, that's a big word, you'll
Mhm.
go there and magic. And I'm not trying to promise too much. I know that I can tend to be a Pollyanna, but not, I would say 99% of the time, magic. What would you
Mhm.
say to that when you just let the kiddo kind of lead the charge? What are you seeing in the
Mhm.
room? Yeah.
There has never been a session when I haven't seen something amazing unfold.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that conversation that we had about should, I think you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. I think that, oh man, for all of us, and I think about it in the way that I look at my own kids, yeah, sometimes that creeps in and has me thinking, oh, I feel responsible for making this easier for you. And
Mm-hmm.
what I want parents to know is you're already doing a great job. You're already doing a great job. If you've got a question, absolutely ask it whenever you're ready. And if you need to sit with that question for a while, you can sit with that until you're ready to ask it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Just really,
Yeah.
again, giving the parents permission to tune into their own hearts and
Hmm.
intuition and just go like, okay, let's tune out the noise. Let's tune out the shoulds. Let's definitely throw away the parenting books
Yes.
because there's so much. There's some good stuff in there too. But that's where I think for me as a new parent, I got the most stress. So I put that away.
Right. Right.
But tuning in with your own intuition is big in this work. And I think as a mama, I'm learning, as a mama to a 2-year-old and now a second one on the way, I'm learning the intuition is a big part of this job too.
Yeah. Yeah.
and, and
Yeah.
your kiddos are 10 and how old staff?
Yes. 7.
7.
Yes. 10
I
and
keep
7.
thinking of your kids as like 5 and 3. They will
Yes.
always be 5 and 3.
Yes. Kids stay stuck in my mind at
Oh,
certain ages too.
5 and 2, I guess. My math is terrible, but yeah, I know it's just funny. Life is funny. Um, I've thrown you through the ringer. How you feeling? We did
Good.
all the big
Good.
questions. Yeah, and we're just getting it
You're
out
asking me
going
about
deep.
my favorite thing, and I
I
really
know.
like you. This is a good night.
Good. Let's be friends. I love it. Let's hang out.
Yes.
We've got like, I don't know, 40 minutes left, which is super rad. And I love it. So let's
Excellent.
keep going. And I've got, you know me, I've got a zillion questions for you. But
Good.
um, one of the things I want to know, just going back to your work is we talk a lot about language to describe our work and you and I had mentioned that in your work there's a lot of language around the weaknesses
Mhm.
and what that looks like, but maybe not as much language around strengths and
Mhm.
actually giving, instead of red, yellow and green, we have more colors of strengths to talk about and
Mhm.
more avenues of strengths to kind of I don't know if it's more optimistic, if you will, but what what would you share about that language piece around your actual profession and what you might suggest or what you implement in your business?
Mhm. Yeah, I was reading a book that that was the line that jumped out at me was,
Mm,
wow, we have such a strong vocabulary for articulating weakness, and we do not have enough words for explaining all the strengths in
mhm,
humans.
mhm,
And one of the things that I'm trying to do in this third season of my job is really get better at giving parents specific language so they can ask me, hey, is this fronting? Is this like, so they've got exact
oh,
words as
yeah,
opposed to, because so few things really are black or white. So few
mhm,
things really are normal, or I suppose the opposite of that would be not normal, but
yeah,
I want parents to have that language where they're able to say, hey, here's what I think I'm hearing, so
mhm,
that A, it's not a big scary thing, and B, you feel really like, oh, that's what this is. Yeah, you feel really informed about what it is, and now we're
mhm,
not worried about ahead and behind. Ahead and behind are dumb.
yeah.
We don't need those ones. We don't need them. We don't need them.
Yes, if we could just flush those down the toilet in all
Yeah.
professions, in all
Yeah.
of life, really. Bye bye, ahead
So
or
what if we
behind.
could say, okay, is that a vocalization? Yeah, absolutely. That is a
Yeah,
vocalization. So
yeah.
not a word. absolutely a vocalization, totally
Yeah.
counts as communication.
Mm-hmm.
I think that when we have that really specific language for all the strengths and all the complex pieces of it,
Mm-hmm.
then we're really noticing what we're seeing here, and then we don't have to feel worried about it because we know exactly what we're seeing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And brains are wired for the negative so that we don't get eaten by tigers, right? So if you hear a rustle in the bush, you're like, butterfly or tiger? Like, let's go to the negative for that for
Definitely
sure,
assume
because
the
it,
worst.
it might be a butterfly, but shoot, right? So I get it. But I also see like, we can often mistake negative for reality, and when we have a more objective approach like this, like, okay, there's levels, there's shades, there's colors, there's a gray area in this black and white thinking,
Mhm.
that's where I'm going to use the word magic again. That's where the magic lives, is in that getting curious about, there's that word again. This is the third episode. I think we may have to rename the show Getting Curious. But um getting curious about what is in there, in that space, that is actually awesome, that we can build from,
Mhm.
right? So I love so much that you are giving kiddos these amazing messages, and parents these amazing messages, because you're going to put people like me out of a job, which is nice. No, unless they want to go to the Voice or the Grammys, then we'll still have jobs. But
Yeah, well, you got a
there'll be
gig.
less tears in my studio, because we're not
Mm.
harboring these messages moving forward, maybe stifling our voices as adults. Maybe, I see a lot of people with lots to say, but they can't bring themselves to say it, right? And it all ties back, I shouldn't say all, most of it ties back to, those elementary years, and earlier, that sometimes we don't even know why we do the things we do. So
Right.
it's really cool that someone like you is on the front line. I just, yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. I'm just loving it. I'm loving you.
Uh,
This is a big love
well,
fest.
thank you.
My
I
pleasure.
I really, really enjoy this job, and I've had the pleasure of doing it
Yeah.
with so many tremendous speech pathologists,
Mm-hmm.
and it it is a place where you get to see really, really neat things. One of the things I love the most about this job is the flexibility of it. You
Mm.
have the ability to work with adults or work with children. You
Mm-hmm.
have the ability to work in the realm of hearing loss and cochlear implants. You have the ability to work in voice, both
Mm-hmm.
in terms of working with transgender folks who are transitioning,
Super
or
cool.
also, yeah,
Yeah.
also in terms of vocal hygiene and making sure that nodules are something we're addressing, that sort of thing. So
Mm.
it is a job that allows you to cross paths with a lot of really
Mm.
interesting people,
Mm.
and it has it has consistently brought the joy for me.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. And um, that's where I'm really curious to go into the crossover of what you and I do, and the vocal hygiene piece. That's a big one for us too. And I wonder, is like how the voice works and the resonance and breath work and all that stuff. Does that come into play for you as well, or would you refer your clients to other people to do those specific things?
I think it would depend on each case because
Yeah.
speech pathologists do have an amount of training in it. And
Hmm.
um, because we work with children who tend to really experiment with sound effects and shouting and whispering and a lot, they really use that voice and
Oh,
don't always hydrate and sometimes slam those vocal
yeah,
folds together. So we have the ability to do
yeah,
that. I think case by case, it comes down to, okay, is this the kind of thing that I need to hand over to an ENT?
right.
Is this the kind of thing that I would be looking for somebody who specializes
Yeah.
into invoice and that sort of thing? So it would be a case by case basis where all the way along we're just figuring out what exactly the nature, the underlying issue is, and which one of us who loves voice can help best.
Oh, I love that. It's a team, right? That's so cool. I'm just
Yeah.
posting a comment here, Mark. This is Paul's mom. So I talked to Paul last time on episode 2, and he's super awesome, and his
Ah.
mom is awesome, and she says it's getting the joy she invests, and I and she goes, Airdrie. Yes, yes. Thank you, Mark. It's so nice to see you again, and yeah, say hi in
And
the
Mark,
chats, everybody. Yeah,
you
go
point
ahead.
out one of the things that I do think is funny about finding myself in this job is not only does autocorrect have a hard time with my name, but like really, of all the names, hi, small person, who's new at talking, the freshest, the freshest earthlings, the newest humans. Give this one a try. See if you can
Yeah.
say Airdrie.
I think you have a beautiful name, and I know what you mean
Thank
because
you.
we go back a long time, and I don't mean this to make it sound super old, but we go back a long time to the grade 3, right? And I never had a problem with your name, but I was around you. We were BFFs, and it happened all the time. And
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
people make things more complicated because they're different. So well, it must be very complex when when it really absolutely isn't. It absolutely isn't. You say it
Yes.
how it's spelled. So,
Well, here's
p
the flip side of this
yeah,
very complicated name. This is the highlight of my Friday. I am off work and
yeah.
I'm volunteering at my kid's school. And one of my speech kids comes up and says, hi, Airdrie. Guess what sound he's been working on? Guess what sound he's been working on?
Ah!
And
Nice.
he nails the double R.
Oh.
Nails it.
Oh. Oh, I love that so much. My baby sister, who's now in her 20s and has a baby of her own, she had trouble with R's as a kiddo, and she would say "girl" instead of
Hmm.
"girl," and
Yes,
she was so cute. I loved it anyway. But if she was growing up in England, this would not be an issue, which
right.
is interesting.
Excellent
So,
point.
do you ever work with accents, and how does that work?
So
That's my
that is
question.
an excellent point. The position statement of speech pathologist is dialects are not a disorder. So if your background is that you are
Yeah,
British, if your
yeah,
background is like the growing up in Boston area, we are not going to fix something
right.
that is completely in fitting with
Love it.
that's not ours to fix. We are not
Love
touching
it.
anything that is completely in the realm of all the things that make you you.
Yep.
And we actually
Yep.
won't fix the other kind either unless you want us to.
I just appreciate that so much because there's room for excuse me, there's room for every voice and there's room for every dialect, and um where we just need to maybe improve, if that's a word, is if we're being misheard, or what we want to communicate isn't coming across and people aren't understanding it, and
Yeah.
that could just be them too. But it's nothing wrong with us or who we need to change, or we all don't need to be one autobot voice, right? One for male, one for
Hmm.
female, one for non-binary. Like no,
Hmm.
every voice matters, not to be too Mary Poppins, but I will say that every voice matters, and what
Absolutely.
makes you unique is actually it's a gift. So we don't want to rub that one out and just
Yes.
be gone with it. So I
Yeah.
love that you're saying that. Marg is also saying something about Scotland. Oh, I am from near
Love
Airdrie in
it.
Scotland. There's an Airdrie, Scotland.
There absolutely is.
You would
Yep.
know. I didn't know this. I knew there was
So
an Alberta.
Marg and a few thousand other people absolutely know how to say it and spell it. Autocorrect really did her wrong. She knows it.
Well, you know what? That's what makes this so fun, the community. Thank you so much, Marg, for posting, because we just got a whole nother topic of conversation out of that. So that was awesome.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Well, let's go back to my official list here because there's so many buttons I want to hit. But um, tell me about you and your own voice journey. Do you have warm ups you do? I know you were into singing for a while. What does it look like as a speech therapist slash speech language pathologist in your
Mhm.
own vocal care, in your own vocal journey? Big question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Coffee is a big part of it.
Yes, girl.
Um,
That's the mom part, though.
right.
That's the
Yes.
mom part.
I wouldn't
Oh,
say
nice.
I'm a model hydrator. I need to drink more water and I don't have any special warm ups. I would say at this point in my life, most of the singing I do is
Yeah.
bedtime lullabies for the two kiddos at
Oh,
my house. That's about
yeah.
it.
Oh, that's
But
nice.
I do get to do some singing in here with kids because that is a big ticket interest item for the kiddos on my caseload right now are between the ages of 1 and 11, I would say right now.
Oh,
And especially for those new talkers, the kids who are building those blocks
yeah.
of pre-language skills,
Mhm.
singing is a big, it will get their attention. And there are kiddos who people process language in two different ways. Some kids process language piece by piece,
Mhm.
and other kids process whole chunks of language and they learn things based on how the language they heard felt in that moment and everything around
Mm.
it.
Mhm.
So, kiddos on my caseload who are Gestalt language processors, they have excellent memories for songs, and
Ooh.
that is how they learn language. And it's in those chunks of verses and songs. So, I'm racking my brain for the
Wow.
best of the best that I've got. Uh, every now and again, one comes up really easily,
Yeah.
and I kind of have to think back to like my Pixar movies for some of them.
Nice.
Like, right,
I won't
when
ask you to sing any, don't worry.
when we're playing with animals, I'm like, "Ooh, what was that song from The Lion King?"
Hakuna
But
Matata?
yes, I should do warm-ups. I should hydrate. I'm a
Uh,
terrible example of vocal hygiene, but
oh, no! It's
I
okay.
like to sing in here with the kids, and
Oh, that's awesome.
mostly I just sing to my own too at night.
Oh, that's awesome. And you know what? We're flushing perfection down the toilet too, so don't worry about
Yes.
that. You are who you are, and you bring the joy, as Mark pointed out, and that's
Thank you,
really
Mark.
all we need. If we bring the joy, no matter how tired we are or how much coffee we've had, it makes a difference. So that's
Yes.
super cool. You said so many awesome things just now. I like was jotting. You should have seen my hand. It was like, but one of the things I've seen online, and I've actually seen a little bit of this in my work, is that we use singing to correct stuttering. Have you ever seen this in
Mm.
action? And
So
if so, what do you think the science is there? What's going on?
okay. So that's a really interesting point. There are people who stutter in speech, but not while singing. And I
Mhm.
want to say, is it Mel Tillis was the most famous singer who was known for that, I think. Don't quote me on
Oh,
that. I'll double check that name.
I like
But
it.
basically, it has to do with the side of the brain that's responsible for the job you're asking it to do in that moment.
Yeah,
And we don't know exactly what causes stuttering, which is incredibly frustrating to parents.
yeah.
But what we do know is it probably has something to do with the genes that decide your internal speech pacer. So,
Mm.
because
Mhm.
that looks a bit different when you're singing, that may be why people stutter during speech when they don't during singing.
Yeah, that disconnect is huge. Like, there's a lot of people that have, a lot of singers are guilty of this. We work on our singing voice and we don't connect it to it. It is our speaking voice. It's the same muscles, and so you'll find a lot of famous singers have the worst speaking habits. And I just mean like the breath support isn't there. I don't mean
Right?
accents and things. The breath
Yep.
support isn't there, or they're talking like this off the vocal fry all day. But then they go and
Mhm.
sing, and it's huge, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Where, that must feel, I was one of those too, because I had a tiny speaking voice and then a huge singing voice, and it was weird and awkward because I was like, which one's the real me? What? Could I could
Oh,
I do them both? And when I started to connect that, ooh, that was the money. Like that was,
yeah.
oh, okay. That's really very cool. In fact, I'm going to tell you a true story. Um, Part of the reason I sing is because of the Little Mermaid, yes, but the other part of
Good reason.
yeah, I know, right? I know.
Yep.
But the other part is you, because
Me.
I never knew that singing was actually a thing you could do other than choirs until
Oh.
I came over to your house and we were in the basement and we're at the piano and you were practicing a song, and I remembered the name of it until about a month ago when my mom brain went and now it's gone. But I just remember hearing you practice this for a recital or something, and I was just blown away that someone could do voice instead of piano lessons. I was like,
Ah,
"What? Do you remember what song that was?"
neat.
I don't
No,
was it Good
no.
Ship Lollipop or Tomorrow from Annie or something like
Oh,
that? Does
well, I
that
grew
ring a
up
bell?
listening to a lot of show tunes, Broadway
Okay.
musicals, so it
Okay.
certainly could have been, but
Yeah.
no, off the top of my head, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. You know what? I'll post it on this episode later because I'll walk
Yeah,
away from this
it'll come
conversation
to
and go,
you.
"Son of a" yeah. It'll totally come to me because it was just, um, yeah, I'll never forget. I mean, I know I can see where I'm standing by your by your piano, and I'm standing to the
Yes.
left of it, and you're in front of the piano. Like, I could still see it. It's that isn't that funny how moments like that just kinda
I am
stick with
so
you?
glad that you brought that speaking voice and that singing voice together because,
Well,
man,
thank you.
it's a
Thank you.
voice.
Well,
It's a
thank
voice.
you, and I
It's a voice
love
that needs to be heard.
well, thank you, and I just love that I've made the show about me now, which is amazing. It's
Good.
a classic singer move, diva. No, I'm just kidding. It's
Not a
awesome. So,
diva.
isn't it funny how we influence people without even knowing? You know, like you probably thought you can't even really remember that moment, but it was humongous in my life, and
Mm.
so like, what must be happening in your room with those kiddos, right? Like, what this
Uh,
tiny moment where you're singing a Lion King song with a toy, and they'll remember forever, right? It's so
well,
cool.
from I only see it from my eyes, and
Yeah.
I will tell you that those moments are so memorable for me. And we are we are getting better as a field. We are getting
Mm,
better as a society,
yeah.
understanding more about our differences and what really matters and what everybody gets to choose for themselves.
Yeah.
And listeners have jobs and speakers have jobs. It's not all on the speaker,
Mhm.
but eye contact is something that comes up a lot in my job. And although I feel really strongly that it is not a requirement, it is not necessary for
Mhm.
communication, particularly when I'm spending time with autistic kids.
Mm.
But I always try and be the first eyes up so that if you want to raise your eyes, mine are going to be the ones you see.
Oh, it's
And those
awesome.
are the moments that I remember. Those are the moments that stick with me, are those
Oh,
moments when whatever we're doing together becomes so interesting that you want to share it because it's not about the eye contact. It's about, hey, did you just see that? It's
oh,
about recognizing the other person as a communication partner, and it's about sharing that with somebody else. And
oh,
that's
wow.
communication, that's language.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that beyond
Yeah.
there's no measure because I'm just thinking about my kiddo when he was 1, it was all about the eye contact. He didn't have a ton of words, and maybe even earlier than that. It was always like, "Are you watching me, mom? Are you watching me, mom? Did you see that, mom?" Like, it was always
Yes.
this, right?
Yeah.
And they're saying so much in that eye contact. And you said you work with kiddos from 1 years old? Is that
Yeah.
really? So what does that
Yeah. What
it
does
to
that
me,
look
is
like?
that early? Is
Well,
that
this is probably the point where when the world said to us, "How should we make kids talk?" We were like, "Ha, oh, you don't."
don't, don't,
That's not how it
back
works.
away,
No. Yeah,
put it down.
one-year-olds taught us. Oh, that's not how this works.
No,
Yes.
no. Oh, wow, wow.
Basically, what we're doing because, if we're gonna talk in ages and stages,
Yeah.
because that first word generally comes at around 1 year, I've had the ability to start seeing kids that early and sometimes even earlier if they have had a tricky medical past that brought them
Okay.
here. If
Yeah.
they've had, I've got to meet some really strong kids, some really incredibly tough, tiny bodies who have stabilized their body temperature, stabilized their blood pressure, busted out of the NICU, and come to hang out.
Oh,
And
wow.
because we know they're working extra hard, maybe
Yeah.
because they were born early and didn't have as much time to do all that same developing as their friends did, had to do
Mhm.
it on the outside instead of on the inside. Because we know they're working extra hard, we want to connect with them early so that we can be
Oh.
really supporting those pre talking skills. So,
Mhm.
it's a lot of modeling, it's a lot of invitations, it's a lot of follow their lead, and it's a ton of sound effects. It's really fun.
It would be really fun.
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh. Oh,
super fun.
and wow.
Mhm.
And, what a diverse group that you work with. I mean, we say kiddos and we're like, "Oh, yeah, kids," but no, like 1 to 11. Like, think
Yeah.
about yourself. Most of that we can't even remember because we were so
Yes.
tiny. But like, if you're a
Yeah.
parent or you're around somebody that does have kids a lot, often, you'll see like the transition is humongous. Like,
Hmm.
we are preteen at 11 and we're just brand new at 1, and you
Yeah.
have skills to hang with all of these kids but also support them. Like, that's amazing. I just need to say that. I'm not even
Thank
trying to
you.
butter you up. That is amazing that
Well,
you
they're really good
can.
teachers.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Yeah.
They are.
Yeah. Yeah. So, wow, I'm just blown away. I love this. There was something you said and it was in my mind and I was like, please sure to ask her, and it's gone. So I'm going to go in
Mm,
another direction, but I might come back to this, like
totally.
the specifics of what you do. So a lot of adults wonder what's available to them in this route. So I know from the singing world, if we have nodes or a lot of hoarseness or raspiness in our voice, we go to the ENT first. And I imagine then we go and see someone like you after to do some exercises, etc., to rehabilitate things. But I also have never been down this path myself. And so
Hmm.
I'm not sure exactly how it works. I'm going to be honest about that.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
wonder if you could share a little bit about what might an adult's voice come to you for, and
Hmm.
how does the ENT fit into all that jam?
Right.
Yeah.
That's a great question. So, an adult has never actually come to me
Okay.
because from the beginning of time, I've been head over heels for children.
I got it.
But basically, once the ENT figures out, okay, what is changing that vocal quality for you?
Mm-hmm.
And is that an issue for you? Is it the kind of thing that feels comfortable, or is it the
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing that, like, man, I keep losing my voice now? It's cutting in
Yeah.
and out. I can't rely on it the way I want to. So
Yeah.
basically, once an ENT figures out what's the nature of it, are we looking at nodules, these harmless blisters that change how your voice sounds, but not the kind of thing that requires surgical removal? Are we
Mm-hmm.
looking at polyps? Are we looking at something else that we need to deal with surgically first? And then essentially, our role is both giving that hygiene information
Yeah.
and then also sort of helping. When I worked at Children's Hospital in Winnipeg, they had all this instrumentation that would show you, like, okay, so here is, so if we can get your voice in this pitch range right here, so here is where you're going to be least hard on your voice. Here
Mm.
is this kind of natural zone for you to be. So there are some visual feedback, things like that you can get from instrumentation. But
Mm-hmm.
in my experience working with kids, mostly it's that piece of, okay, so when you do this with your voice, here's how that part of your body works. So it just kind of slams those vocal folds together. So here's our job. We got to drink lots of water, and we got to go to the room. We got to go to the same room as the person you want to talk to. I know. We all want to
Yes.
shout. We all want to shout
Yes.
from downstairs.
Yes. Oh,
Mhm. Except for my
preach.
mom, who you probably remember had
Never
her
shouts.
customary. Oh, also that. Um,
Oh, yes, the
she had
broom.
her customary foot stomp on the kitchen
Oh, the
floor.
foot stomp. That's right.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
It wasn't broom.
That
Yes, I
would
love
tell
that.
us in the basement on the super 80s sectional couch that I know Full House is on, but sorry, it's supper time.
Oh, I
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I love that, the foot stomp. Judy.
Everything I needed to know about vocal hygiene, I learned from Judy.
That's so awesome. Oh my gosh, we're coming back to that, but I'm just gonna share this comment here. Mark has to go, but she loved it. So beautiful conversation. Sorry, I have another
Oh,
commitment, have to sign off. Hopefully, we'll watch in the rerun. Thank you both so much for this meaningful topic. Yeah. Um,
thank you,
I
Mark.
hope you get to meet her one day. She's a neurographic artist, among other artist stuff that she does, but it's this calming brain work around art that it's kind of like a really cool doodle. If you get a chance, YouTube
Neat.
neurographic art. It's phenomenal. But
Yes,
anyways,
I would
thanks
love
Mark for
to.
thanks for being here. And anybody else in the chat, feel free to ask your questions. In fact, I'm going to throw up a prompt here. There you go. Ask your questions in chat. A lot of people feel scared to ask questions, please don't feel scared to ask questions. You can ask us questions about Lion King songs. You
Mhm.
can ask us questions
Yes.
about vocal notes. You can ask us questions about, hey, where'd you get that super fun dress shirt that you're wearing, Airdrie? Because that's what I asked her
Why,
earlier.
thank
I
you.
love it. Um, so this is something cool because in my world, we talk all about the voice is designed to work 24/7 without any issues. Yes, that's true. And I've since seen my son blow his voice out a few times because he doesn't yet know how his voice is designed. And so he
Mhm.
just screams and bangs those chords together. So I love those tips you just gave. And I wonder if we can just dive in there even more. If we have a kiddo that's completely misusing their voice, if you will.
Mhm.
It's fun to
Mhm.
play with our voices, and that's awesome. But if it's becoming a problem where they're losing their voice regularly, what as parents can we say to those kiddos? And you gave us some options, but let's just bring them up again
Mhm.
to encourage them to have proper vocal health so it'll be there
Mhm.
for them when they need their voices.
Right. That's tricky because kids are built to be noisy
Yeah.
and built to try everything and
Yes.
figure out what feels good.
Yep.
One of the strategies that I use in almost anything I'm addressing, I use it when we're working on stuttering. I use it when we're working on vocal hygiene stuff. I use it in language as well, I
Hmm.
would say, is instead of giving a direction, I model that I model that quieter voice and I model
Mm.
that drawn out, like I hold my vowels a little bit longer, I take a little bit longer
Oh.
spaces between words because more powerful than giving a kid a direction is sort of like when you talk about like it's the in the same manner that kids match energy, they also will match volume or they'll match rate or they'll
Mm.
match. Now, they can't always do it in pronunciation because there are three different things that are generally behind what's making that tricky for kids,
Hmm.
but they will generally match whatever we're doing. So if we can model a really easy volume that isn't hard on our own voices, if we can model a voice that is, and maybe it's the kind of voice that they have to come closer to hear and that brings their voice down, sort of thing.
Oh.
Basically we lead by example. And
Oh.
I'll be honest, it's not 100%.
No. No.
Two-year-olds are occasionally like, hold my beer.
Oh my gosh, you're so right. The sounds he was making, I mean, he was tiny when he was doing this. He's crying. I mean, when they're tiny and they cry, they don't know. But yeah, it was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
my baby is hoarse. This is
Aw.
not good,
And
right? But just trying to, yeah, anyway, go for it.
that will often happen to little ones who
Hmm.
sometimes their kids born on time and sometimes kids born prematurely, that reflux
Oh,
will
yes.
irritate the vocal folds and will result in these hoarse little voices from really young kids.
Oh gosh. And even pregnant women
Yes.
can have this issue.
Yes, also that too.
Yeah, also like 24/7 heartburn plus the hormone differences. This is gonna be a whole other episode because my
Super
voice is
fun.
completely interesting. I wake up and I'm like Kathleen Turner, like that's my or Lauren
Nice.
Bacall. I'm like, what? Who is this person? But yeah, you're right. That acid reflux, just that other little layer of vocal care and yeah, I want to come back because you said some awesome things like kiddos need to be able to express their voices in whatever friggin' sounds they want, and so do adults, right? We don't want
Yeah.
this conversation to be our voice is delicate. We must be careful. No, it's a very resilient instrument, and it's a muscle just like any other, right? If you want to yell at a sport event and blow your voice out the next day, do it. Go for
Mhm.
it. I don't care. But if you have a presentation the next day, here's some helpful advice from us that can help you not have no voice for your presentation
Right.
the next day, right? Or however that looks for the kiddos too. So really cool stuff. Oh, we have 10 minutes.
10.
What did I tell you? Like at first
You're
it's
a
like,
good
oh,
time.
sweating. And then and then you're present and you lose all track of time, and then we have 10 minutes left. So what I like to do, I'm going to put you on the spot. You ready?
Okay.
At the end of the
Hot
show, if
seat.
there's anything that's come up for you, because I've been directing our tangents, if there's anything that has come up for you that we need to go back and circle back to because you really feel like we have some important information or dialogue to explore, like including the floor stomp from your mom.
Hmm. Yeah,
I love that.
she's good at that.
But
Yeah.
I'm just gonna throw it over to you, and if you feel comfortable, then we'll just keep going. But anything that
Okay.
comes up for you, yeah.
Basically, what happens in speech language therapy is our main goal is giving kids power.
Mm,
Whether it's words or whether it sounds, like you said, when we're looking at what our goals are, parents really, really know their kids. They really
mhm,
know them. And when we're picking those goals, we find it really helpful to have that information from parents, to have that intuition from parents. And our whole job is to give kids more power. So
mhm,
we want to pick the things that they can already do to show us what the next thing is.
mhm,
And we want to give them right away what's going to give you the most power. What is going to allow you to be super comfortable and super assertive in all your
mhm,
environments. So, another thing that this may not be a fun thing for parents, but another thing that we don't do a ton of in speech therapy is a whole lot of pleases and thank yous and compliant language because it is really
oh.
important. It is really important that a kid can say, no, knock it off, stop. And
Oh,
we do a
yes.
lot of modeling that as well
Yeah,
because, and I think how it comes around for parents and feels like something that they're okay with is when kids are feeling really frustrated, they're going to use what they've got. And if what they've
mhm,
got is those feisty little fists
mhm,
or
mhm,
a really impressive shove, that feeling is valid.
yeah,
We're going to do our best to replace it
yeah,
with a word. We're going to do our best to give them something to use in place of that.
yeah,
So we do a lot of playing. We do a lot of, oh, what's the most powerful thing I can give you in this moment?
mm,
And we also really enjoy that conversation with the parents about what feels most important to you right now. What would make today, my friend Ida is amazing
mm,
at her job as a speech language
mm,
pathologist. And she always says, what would make today a really great appointment? What do you need from me right now? So when this is feeling big and scary, I hope that parents know I get that feeling too with my kids.
yeah,
I get that feeling too, but it's not something I feel in this room because
yeah,
in this room, I know, I know your kid's going to show me what they're really great at and what we're going to do next. And I
mhm,
know that you have a really good gut feeling about your kid, and
mhm,
there isn't a head and behind. There's just, hey, cool human, here's what you're doing right now. Let's do this next. This would buy you more power. Let's do this
mhm,
next. How
mhm.
do you feel about that?
Oh, that's so good. It's so good because, giving them power, if we look at speech therapy like that, as I'm giving my child power instead of something's wrong with my child and I need to
Hmm.
go to speech therapy, I think that is phenomenal. And
Yeah.
that's one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is like, when as a parent, what would you say? Oh, they're wondering, will my child just grow out of this? Like, is it actually necessary to see you? What's the fine line between that you would say between that and knowing that this could help free your kid's voice for the very most awesome it could possibly be. So
Hmm.
when do we know? You kind of touched on this before, but that moment, it's like, they'll grow out of it, or, ooh, if I address it now, will they
Yeah.
have an amazing voice for the rest of their lives?
Hmm.
How do we discern that?
That's a great question. I would look at function. I would look at this is what you've got right now. There's a possibility that you're just going to increase that number of words you've got, that you're just going to grow that vocabulary on your own. But right now, if I think about where you spend your day and who your nearest and dearest are you able, does everybody know your code? Does everybody know
Mhm.
your code? Or is there somewhere where they're like, oh, sorry, bud, I tried so I just didn't get it. I just didn't get
Got
it.
it. Yeah.
So I would look at it in terms of function. Functionally
Mhm.
speaking, are your kids' needs met? Does your kid feel, yep, I am totally competent here? Yep. And that's the thing I love about kids. They have such little self doubt. I love it about them.
I
So,
wish we had that.
right. Yeah. At what
Want some of
point? At
that.
what point did I lose that?
Yeah.
So basically, we're looking at function. Does this,
Mhm.
can you meet all your needs in this environment and this
Yeah.
one? And the other thing I think about is because I've had the opportunity to work in the schools, and amazing kindergarten teachers have shared with me, okay, here's when we introduce this, here's when we introduce that. If
Mhm.
I feel like, oh, wow, okay, you know what? Here's what's coming at this point, and here's where you're at right now. If I feel like I can close that distance and make a kid feel more comfortable in what's going to
Mhm.
happen in that room
Mhm.
sooner, that's another good reason. If you feel like, okay, here are the things that are on the radar, here are the things coming up. Yep, it's totally possible that you're going to catch up on your own. But one of the things that we talk about in speech sound disorders when we're looking at just pronunciation is, okay, so you may have people in your life who understand the code. Something that
Yeah.
kind of feels tricky sometimes is when you're sounding things out, but it sounds different when you say it than as written. If we can make that easier now, let's jump in now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so good. Oh, can you tell I love you? Like, is it obvious?
This has
Thank
been
you
an
for being
entirely delightful Friday night. Thank
well,
you.
I'm so glad, and like you can still pour a glass of wine because there's tons of time. You know what I mean? But
Yes.
hey, we had
Yeah.
some good conversation, and we've got another comment in the chat. So this is Paul. I talked to him last episode 2. Hey, Paul,
Episode
thanks
two.
for joining. He says, "Hey, better late than never. You're both awesome." Isn't that
Thanks, Paul.
nice? Paul and his mom joining in on the chats. I love it. You guys are
Yes.
awesome. And we have quite a few viewers. So thank you for spending your Friday evening. I know it's not the whole evening, but hey, it's
It
valuable
was my
time and you
pleasure.
spent it with us. So,
It
and
was
thank you for
time
being
well
here.
spent.
Oh,
It was
it's
time well
so
spent. Chances are better than good. One of my kids is kidnapping a dog along the sidelines of a ball game. It's who she is. It's who she is.
so dad's in charge.
Well, Dad's on the bench, so we're
Oh, well,
probably gonna have to
yeah.
call some sort of animal rescue.
Oh my gosh. Well,
I
you
don't
know
know how we're
what?
gonna fix this. I don't know.
Oh, look at well, you know what? Good luck. You don't have to deal with it. You just need to go home and have some wine, girl.
Yeah, I'll go
um,
home and find out if we got a dog.
this lovely woman is my sister, Caitlin, who I mentioned
Ah,
earlier. So I
Caitlin.
love that. Empowering parents and kids and giving them a toolbox of strategies is so impactful. I loved listening to the both of you. Well, thank you, Kate. I love you.
Thank you, Kate.
Yeah, she works as a
I
speech therapist
really
as well. So one day
yes.
maybe I'll have her on my show.
I think that's a great idea. I think that's a
But
great idea.
I just find it so important to we're all working in different areas of voice, right? And so this crosstalk is so important because there's things we can share with each other, and there's I know we need to specialize. We talked about that in another episode, but the specialization is key because you can't know everything about everything. But when we can get the specialists to talk to one another, we can learn a little bit more and expand that gray area just a little bit more, and that's what I'm so passionate about, and I appreciate
Yeah.
your time today. So, I'm going to talk to people about where they can find you. So, again, Airdrie Poole is a speech language therapist, and you can follow her on Instagram and Facebook at Allegra Speech Therapy. That's her business name. It's super awesome. And you
It
can
is
also,
joyful and lively.
it is joyful and lively. I never even
That's what it
connected.
means. Yes.
Oh my
It means
gosh.
joyful
Well,
and lively. And you know what? It was
the
a
musical term. Yes.
yes, yeah.
Yes, that's what I thought. Mhm.
And it came to be when I chose that name for one of my kids. And I thought, that really became this
Oh.
self-fulfilling prophecy when I named her that. And I think it could do the same in a new space.
Oh, that's super cool. I didn't
So my
you
son
learned
is really
something new.
insistent that I name the therapy fish after him. You know, even Steven.
I love it. So not Nemo then.
No, regrettably. No, but you're close. Nico.
Nice. Yes. Oh my gosh, that's right. Oh, these happy blenders are making my heart sing. I love it. You can also visit Airdrie at her website, allegraslt.com.
Absolutely.
Super pro, eh? We're just running it like pro. I think we have one more. Paul says, expand that gray area. Yes, son. That is what we're doing. This is so cool. That's us. So I'm going to do an official thank you again. And then I'll just say bye to the lovely folks. And then everybody can go off on their evening and think about the fun conversation we had, which is
Fabulous.
delightful. So
Thank
thank
you.
you. If I haven't said it enough, I think I've said it about 30 times. Thank
It was
you.
my pleasure.
Thank you for being here. I'm going to show one more chat comment. You guys are just
Thanks,
awesome.
Debbie.
Debbie, great info. Thanks, ladies. Thank you, Debbie, for joining us. This is super cool. And thank you, Airdrie. And
My
we'll have to
pleasure.
do another one, a follow up, because there's so
I like
much
this
more.
one.
You should see
Yes.
my list of questions. It's amazing.
Excellent.
Yeah, you can tell I don't want to stop because my voice is going. It's like, no, keep going. But we'll do another one. So thank you again. And I will say officially, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for such a
Bye-bye.
great
Oh, no. Ah, I pressed the button too soon. What were you saying? Thank you.
for a great Friday night. That's it.
Okay. Well, peace out, girl. I love you.
Love
Okay.
you.
Bye. Well, thank you to everybody. And wow, it was so much fun to have the chat so active tonight. I appreciate you all. You're beautiful. And yes, expanding the gray area. I think that's my new slogan. Really think we need to do that upright. So, if you guys have any suggestions for future interviews, please let me know. And otherwise, you can catch us next time on episode 4. Let me just look at the calendar here. Monday, the 27th, noon PST. I have a chiropractor, Dr. Christine Salmon. We're going to talk all things body and bones and voice. So it's going to be fun. And yeah, so join us then. And oh, one more quote from the chat room. Got to drink lots of water now, Jill. Practice that vocal hygiene. Exactly. I know. Too not enough sleep as a mom. That's what it is. All right, beautiful people. Thank you so much for being here. And I will catch you next time.